Yeah, so Dennis is completely right. Uh, After doing this so many times, you would think that I would have this down to a science. Oddly enough, what screwed me up this time was I got everything ready early. I got everything ready early. I was just like, oh, I'm going to go grab my drinks and I'll have the stream set up. And long story short, if I start up OBS before I start up the video call, that sometimes messes stuff up. So that was our problem. Video call went live after the stream. So if you guys have any issues, just let me know. Now all my settings were all jumbled up, but I can see chat. Dennis, you're right. Yep, John. Hashtag technology. Yeah, tough life we're living here. Um, but yeah, we're on the wrong lead. We're gonna talk some Churchill here. And per Caleb's request, maybe some bonus Belmont discussion, and we'll tag Mark in on the fly. Um, but hey, we're coming into the thick of it, huh? This is a couple of good weekends in a row of racing we've had, huh, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think honestly, this weekend to me, given that you have both Churchill and Belmont with some graded stakes, looks even better than last weekend. I mean, I think if you can't get fired up about this Churchill card, I don't really know what does get you fired up. I mean, you're, seeing the return of two of the best female dirt horses in the world, arguably probably the two best that are still running. And I think then you also get to see, who I consider to be the best older male right now running in the country, and see how he stacks up versus another group of contenders, and see if he can continue his rocking ways as a 7-year-old. So I think this card is just lit. This is a really great late sequence. It's well carded by Churchill.
Yeah, I agree. It's an awesome card. Churchill's got some loaded fields, a lot of good horses coming back. Uh, it's a good weekend of racing all around. I think I'm more excited. Maybe not more excited, but I think that objectively, the racing this weekend is better than it was last weekend, despite the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think the Belmont card overall was sort of a disappointment. I mean, you were watching the Belmont card for the Belmont Stakes. There wasn't anything else that really was exciting on that card. It was pretty meh, with a lot of the races that were taken off it. And I think you're getting to see, you know, albeit for the layman terms, there isn't that, oh, it's the Belmont Stakes race this weekend, but there are a number of races with, as a horse racing fan, with just better fields and better quality horses this weekend.
yeah, and one of the things is, you know, I was talking with Chase about this last night. We recorded our podcast last night, and I got it released sometime after midnight, I think, last night. But we talked a little bit of Belmont this weekend, and one of the big disappointments I think of Belmont week or Belmont weekend was, you know, there was always that Friday night, that Friday day of all of those like state bred stakes races, which was always a pretty decent card. Like those are always fun betting cards usually. I mean, there's a couple, like you'll get a couple of races with like real heavy favorites. Who's that state bred Mr. Buff? Shows up there and it goes off at like 1 to 2 or whatever. And then you'll have Belmont Stakes Day, which is just absolutely loaded with the Met Mile, the Ogden Phipps. You get the Belmont Stakes, and they decided, for better or for worse, to kind of spread some of those stakes races out. And I think it took a lot of the star power out of the Belmont Stakes, because Belmont Stakes was probably second or third best day of racing all year. If you include, you talk Breeders' Cup, you talk Kentucky Derby Day and Belmont Stakes Day, you can flip Kentucky Derby and Belmont Stakes as second or third, but those are the best days of racing, just top to bottom. So it was a little bit of a disappointment. It was fairly the pick five sequence was fairly straightforward. I think. I missed that stupid George Weaver horse, and you could hear me lament about that on our podcast if you want to hear me bitch. But yeah, this weekend looks pretty good. Loaded with some very competitive stakes races, I think, even in both Churchill's card and at Belmont. But why don't we start taking a look here real quick at Churchill? Is this the first 2-year-old graded stakes race of the year?
I think it is. I think this year, with how things fell, it is. Normally, I think Keeneland has one, but I don't think that happened this year because of obviously Keeneland canceling their meet. So
Yeah, so we have the Bashford Manor here. It's a grade 3, 6 furlongs for 2-year-olds here. So Caleb, why don't you start us off here?
Sure. So these 2-year-old stakes races are always pretty tough. You almost treat them like maiden races because every horse is coming in here looking somewhat similar. They all came in with one race and one win. So the horse that I actually ended up on as my top pick was not the favorite, and it was the 3-horse Gatsby. I do get the feeling this is going to be the wise guy horse that everybody is going to be on. Um, First off, he ran a respectable fig. I don't know how it came back on Bayer, but it came back fairly strong on Briz with an 85. And if you watch the race, it's really a better race than it looks. He tries to make the lead from one of the more inside draws. He's not quick enough to outbreak the horse to his outside. He ends up having to steady going into the first turn, drops back a couple lengths, tips out wide, and then actually re-rallies and gets up to win comfortably. That race turned out to be pretty live. Golden Pal is a Wesley Ward horse, probably the best 2-year-old Wesley Ward has. Just went overseas to Royal Ascot and ran second in a stakes race on the turf. Just beat a whisker too. It was a tough beat. And then the third place finisher, Just Right Mike, is a Vasquez Yates combination horse that ended up coming to win in his next start as well. So that race turned out to be pretty live. I like the way that this one ran. He had some trouble, took some adversity, was able to re-rally, which kind of proves that he has speed but doesn't need the lead here. These Arundel homebreds have been doing really good in Florida in these 2-year-old races with Juan Alvarado. So I'm interested to see how this horse does stepping up into stakes company, and it looks like he's working well towards this, and that's going to be the horse I'm going to lean on the most.
yeah, I think the horse you're saying that's going to be the favorite is Cazadero in here, and Bayers does not give speed figures on Gulfstream Park 4.5 races. They're one of the ones that they don't hand them out on. So I don't actually have a fig on Gatsby or Hyper Focus or Country Final to put it out there, but. Yeah, I think, Casadero is a deserving favorite in here. If you watch that race, horse had a lot of pace pressure early. And, we always talk with these 2-year-olds, they haven't learned a lot of things yet. So they're still trying to figure out how do I, I have early pace pressure. How do I deal with that? Can they pass horses? All those types of things. So, I mean, on figs, Casadero should get the lead in here, should end up on the front. But these 2-year-olds have a habit of, in a month improving massively. I have a feeling that you're not going to get anywhere near 8-5. You're going to get more like 3-5 on this Casadero horse, just on the fact that if you're somebody looking at figs, the horse is like a 30-point speed fig advantage over the second fastest horse in here. And I think the two, Gatsby, who Caleb had mentioned, is one that I definitely want a lot of. I think my top choice in here is Hyper Focus, who is by constitution, who's a really good fire early type sire. Figs are competitive, but I think this is a type of horse that some of these are going to go. And I think Casadero probably goes in here. I also think you're going to see a lot of speed out of Gatsby and somebody like a Hulan and, Crown and Coke as well. So you're going to have 3 or 4 of these that are going to really be firing. And I'm hoping that Hyper Focus, with Johnny Velasquez, can sit just off that crank and pace and be the one that's got a little bit left. A little bit left in the stretch. Mike Rapole owned horse, so all the connections are there, and that was sort of where I landed. If you forced me to pick a top, but I think this is one of those races where, given some of the races after, if you're thinking how you're going to play through, I think you can get pretty spready in here and try to find a price, and I think that's an okay way to play it, and then get cute in the next couple of races.
So no one likes the Mountaineer Shipper, huh? Okay, I was just checking.
No.
So, Mark, I'm pretty much with you right here on Hyperfocus. In these 2-year-old stakes races, I usually tend to lean on on horses that have passed other horses. Too often we'll get these, horses that have had one or two starts and, got the lead and won comfortably, or got the lead and dueled. And, you get maybe one or two standouts in per these early 2-year-old races. And then you put them all in the stakes race, and all of a sudden you got 3 or 4 speed horses that are gonna maybe try and vie for the lead. And so I like to kind of look for that horse that's going to be coming from off the pace, and I definitely think hyper focus fits there. I would probably also take a look at herd immunity, but herd immunity's like speed figure, at least on Briz, is not even close to the rest of the field. What's DRF showing on that one, or is there no?
Yeah, no, there's a 49 speed figure there for that
Yeah.
horse.
That's about right.
I would sort of toss that speed figure if you read the notes and watch the last race. Horse, didn't break, just pure ass didn't break, was broke about 2 lengths back, and was able to circle the field. And also, a lot of times with 2-year-olds, their second race will substantially improve over their first race. It's nothing to see a 20 or 30 point speed fig increase in these type of horses. They move forward, they learn how to race. And so, yeah, I mean, I would agree with Josh. Also, you're getting a little more distance, and a tenth of a second is worth a lot more points at 4 furlongs or 5 furlongs than it is at 6 furlongs. So, with this horse stretching out, has the herd immunity has the pedigree, both top and bottom, to be able to stretch out, and honestly, with pedigree, be able to go quite a bit longer than this. So, I agree with you on herd immunity.
Yeah, I mean, the other horses that I don't know, if I tend not to play, ABC structure. I tend to stay skinny and, try and hit for $1 or something like that. So if I was going to be playing like a pick 4 here, which I'll probably take a stab at it. We'll kind of see how the rest of the day goes. Another horse that I might be interested in using is going to be the 2 Hulin. And that's just mostly a pace play. The pace figures seem to tell a slightly different story than what's kind of shown. It looks like it was a fairly slow pace their last time out, and they ended up passing a horse and clearing. So this horse looks like it might have a little bit more of a late kick, and that's, I think, what we're going to be looking for here. It looks like Tapiture tends to be a sprint specialist, but I don't know how long's Tapiture been putting out foals. Not very long, right? It's like a third or fourth year. Yeah. So it's always weird. Like, we talked a little bit, I think, on Discord. I look at those average winning distances and things like that. And with some of these like early sires, the numbers are always going to skew lower, just because these 4.5 furlong races, especially if they win a lot, that's just going to bring their number down. But it looks like both the sire and the dam sire tend to be towards sprint distances. So I'll take a look at Hulin. Obviously, it's a Steve Asmussen, and we have Ricardo on the other Steve Asmussen, so that probably says something. But Corey Lannery in Kentucky, I'll take a look. But that's probably going to be the 3 horses I'm going to be kind of focusing around. Most of it is going to be through hyper focus, but a little bit of herd immunity and Hulin. I'm going to bet against the speed horses and hope that they all tire each other out.
I'll be playing. I like Gatsby best. I also really like hyper focus for all the reasons you guys already covered. And I'm not going to leave off Cazadero. Those 3 will be what my tickets go through. I'll probably let like a Hulin or a herd immunity beat me in the spot.
Don't say we didn't warn you. But you're usually better about that, Caleb. You tend to not. You're very stubborn's not the right word, but maybe confident. Maybe you're just more confident in yourself. Whereas Mark and myself especially tend to be talked into horses that maybe we weren't going to use before, sometimes to our benefit and sometimes to our detriment. But let's move
I
on
may be
here.
wrong, but I'm never in doubt.
The amount of money I burned adding Caleb horses to my playlist over the years is yeah, a small house.
Hey, I'm just telling you, man. Moving Cummings from a B to an A made me $4,000. So,
You're welcome.
all right, let's move on to the Fleur de Lis here. Grade 2 fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and up. Mile in an eighth. Nice little 2-turn race here. Mark, what do you got here? I know you got a horse near and dear to your heart and my heart too, and my wallet.
Yeah,
So.
you had just mentioned the near and dear horse to our hearts and our wallets there. Yeah, I'm all about Serengeti Empress here. On Pace Figs, she's lone speed in this. Um, I would normally use Midnight Bisou, but I realize she's not a Dubai shipper, but the Dubai bounce is not in play here. It's the Saudi bounce, but yeah, it's the same effect here. I don't want Midnight Bisou coming back from overseas in here. I think Serengeti Empress is lone speed. I think she's absolute class of the field. She's a bit of a heady girl. She has a tendency to occasionally toss a clunker, but with her apple blossom last out, they gave her a little bit of a rest, brought her back. She's fired well off the bench previously, and she loves Churchill. She's 2 for 3 here lifetime. I think she's just absolutely class of the field. I think the morning line is hilariously bad. You're going to get nowhere near 2-1 on here because everybody sees her as lone speed and everybody is playing the Saudi bounce. So you're going to probably get even money on her, I would imagine. And she'll be pretty much an ice cold single on almost all my tickets.
Damn, that's a bold play. I like Serengeti. I'm with you there, but I think there's no questioning Midnight Bisou is the horse to beat in this spot and a very deserving favorite, Dubai bounce or otherwise. To me, they're probably the only 2 horses that can win this race, and I'll probably use them both about equally. But I respect, if you're taking a stand against Bisou, you'll get paid for it, and I definitely don't hate that. But I can't let arguably the best dirt horse in training right now beat me against this field where there's only kind of other than Serengeti, it's not much of a field here. So I won't let that horse go on and beat me, but I'll use them both for the obvious reasons. Serengeti being lone speed and Bisou just being the best horse in the field on her day or even on her somewhat day.
I mean, I think you take one or the other. It's hard to take. Well, the way I play, I think you got to take one or the other. If I'm going to play something skinny, obviously I lean towards the pace angle. So Serengeti would be the way I lean. Serengeti once again just looks like lone speed here, and I mean pretty much echo everything that Mark said with the Saudi bounce. So I think maybe like 90% of what I'm going to want to do here is going to go through Serengeti. After that, I mean, you have to use Midnight Bisou if you're going to use multiple horses, but I think I probably, of the sequence, this is probably the race I feel like maybe if I do single, I have the best shot at. So I think I'd rather use like 4 or 5 horses in that first 2-year-old race and single Serengeti here and fade Midnight. And if she wins, hopefully it doesn't come 3 bombs and I look like an idiot. But I just think that Serengeti here is gonna have a better setup. But it'll be interesting to see what the tote board says. Midnight Bisou looks like 3 to 5 on the morning line. Serengeti at 2 to 1. I would take those odds. I would take Serengeti at those odds and let Midnight Bisou beat me at 3 to 5. It'll be interesting to see if it evens out a little bit. Important to note, Midnight Bisou has never won at Churchill. But I don't think that she well, obviously she didn't run here last year because I don't think she lost last year. Well, she lost at
British Cup Distaff.
But yeah, Serengeti's 2 for 3 at Churchill. So I think it's close, but I think I'm going to get a better price than Serengeti, and I'm going to give Serengeti the edge pace wise here.
I would say Sixer right now is asking in the chat, how do you sort of play this? For me, this is Serengeti Empress as an A. Midnight Bisu, it depends on how you want to structure around it. I think for me, Midnight Bisu is just honestly a toss. I don't think I use Midnight Bisu. And if she beats me, she beats me. I'm fine with that. And I think there is a case to be made where you could buy the rest of the field as a C. But I think for me, I'm probably going to only use one C, and that C is going to be go Google yourself. Who I think probably sits, if you play the sort of angle that Serengeti Empress, tosses a second clunker in a row for some reason, which she never has historically done in her career, and that Midnight Bisu doesn't fire. I think the horse that picks up the pieces is Go Google Yourself. She can sit off that pace. She's going to sort of be that first run closer, and she's shown that she's probably not at this level, but at the level of the first two. But if something happens and neither of the top two suck it up, I think she's the third horse you want, and you're going to get every bit of that 8-1, I would imagine, on her. So I think for me, it's probably an AC. I know, and I don't use any other horse in here because I don't think anybody else can really win this.
Yeah, I think if that's your opinion, I kind of think that's the right structure. I'll be playing this. Bisu's an A for me, and in all likelihood, Serengeti's an A. I like them both. I like them both for strong reasons. I'm not going to toss one trying to get overly cute, and I pick 4 here. If I was going to play this horizontally, those are both probably A's. The only B, or I wouldn't have any B's. And if I was going to throw a C in there, the connections are ice cold, but I'm a little interested in Chocolate Kisses. She ran a good race against Dunbar Road last time at a big price. That was, she showed some uncharacteristic early speed. She was able to put away the other speeds and just got run down by a better filly. Like I said, I don't like the connections. She doesn't seem to love Churchill, but if for some reason Serengeti throws a clunker, she's known to do, and Bisu doesn't fire off the travel back to America, there really isn't anyone else that I particularly like. I could see the case for Go Google Yourself, maybe. If the track comes up sloppy, I could see the case for another broad. But Chocolate Kisses is probably the one I'd be most interested in.
Hey, doesn't another broad have like a little mini baby Z pattern?
She passed horses, but she lost ground. I'd probably have to watch the race.
Yeah, I looked real quick. It looked like she was bumped at the start and 5 passed.
I actually did watch that race because I wanted to watch it for Chocolate Kisses, and I didn't see too much. I didn't see any terribly troubled trips that race, except for She's a Julie, who obviously totally missed the break.
Yeah, I was just curious. I haven't gone back and looked at any of it. Yeah, I mean, of the rest, I guess Chocolate Kisses is who you're gonna want. But I think logically you take one of the two and move on. There is Evil Bob Dole, our boy Steve in the chat, does bring up a point of just being contrarian and coming up with like a $20 ticket, and you just toss both of them, and maybe you're skinny in the rest of the legs, and you just kind of like all the rest of them, and if you hit that with a small ticket, I mean, that thing's going to pay boxcars. But it really depends on your budget. Like for me, taking $20 to take a stand against these horses is like almost probably like adding 50% to my total ticket. So that's probably a little much for me. But if you're playing like a $80 or $100 ticket, and you got a little bit extra budget, that might be a way to kind of get around it. But you really, I think, have to have strong opinions in the other races to make a play like that, because otherwise it gets real expensive real quick. But it's kind of like a little like game theory move. If I know Churchill isn't a tournament track, but if this was like a tournament, I don't think I would take either of those horses. And I would probably just try and spike a price with someone like a Chocolate Kisses or another broad if I was going to go bomb hunting. But I don't really think. I think that both those horses, both Midnight Bisu and Serengeti, are going to be real short. There's no way we get 2-1.
I actually think you do. I think the line's close on this one. I think she takes a lot of money. If Bisu gets near even money, I'll be surprised. And I think Serengeti's in the 9-5 to 2-1 range.
If I can get 2-1 on her, I will be just slamming win bets on her. I think 2-1 is just massive value on her, and I realize we all look at value as being a different thing, but I think even if it's a binary opinion that she wins this half the time at 2-1, you're getting paid for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I would say fair value on Serengeti's probably like 8-5, 7-5, somewhere around there is probably where I'm thinking. I'm thinking I would probably slam a win bet on Serengeti. I mean, it's really the only two horses. Like, I don't know, Midnight
Yeah,
Bisou.
if you think she wins the race half the time, like Mark said, it's a 2-horse race in all likelihood. So if you think she wins it 40% of the time, but you're getting 2-1, that's value technically.
Yeah, it's always tough at the shorter prices versus like you seeing a horse that's like should be like 5-1 is like 10-1, you know. And there's probably about as much of a difference in the pools in that as there is like 7-5 and 2-1. So
Right.
yeah, it's interesting. The pool dynamics probably something that we can dive into at some point, but yeah, it looks like Steven says he thinks Midnight Beast will be 3-5 and Serengeti Empress 8-5, which is kind of I think where I see it. I could see just no other horse taking any money, and maybe they get a little bit closer. But
I can see that.
I agree with Steven here. I would say that those are about what I would expect the odds to be at final, and that's sort of borderline Serengeti Empress win bet for me.
By the way, did you guys see who we have in the chat? We have expert knife salesman Nicholas Dayton over here. We got Vengi. So shout out, congratulations on the Cutco job. So may you sell many knives. Who else we got in here? Looks like John's still here. John says he's going to use Go Google Yourself. So he's going to use a little bit of Go Google Yourself here. Which I think, Mark, you kind of called that out a little bit as kind of like a possible like underneath horse, right?
I think she's a win candidate if Serengeti tosses a clunker. I mean, if you're an optics person, she's the optics horse, and you're getting her at 8-1. And I think she sits that trip. Serengeti's going to get loose, and if Serengeti stops, as she occasionally has a tendency to do, I mean, she's done it twice in her career. I think Go Google Yourself picks up the pieces, and as long as Midnight BC doesn't come flying late, that's kind of the first round closer you want.
Yep. I think we spent enough time on a horse that only two horses can win. Or a race that only two horses can win.
20 minutes on a 2-horse race. Well done, guys. Well done.
Yeah, it was like that. It's like spending 20 minutes on that Manny Franco Jose Ortiz duel earlier today. My only winning bet of the day.
That was the easiest. The board was so wrong on that, and I didn't know how to exploit it.
I mean, a 2-horse race. I mean, there's really only one way to exploit it. So,
well, no, you could have done doubles, and that's how I tried to do it with doubles, and then I failed because I tossed a horse that I'd liked in the next leg. So,
who won the race in the next leg?
It was a first-time starter. I think it was like 16 or 17-1.
Yeah, I think I had like 136 or something in the next leg, but
yeah, the 9 won the last leg.
Yeah, so. I was trying to double with that 6 and then the 6 scratch, and it just like messed everything up. But let's move on to the Stephen Foster here. I was going to say that this was probably the race of the weekend, but then I look at the Belmont card. I think there's another race in the Belmont card. It looks really really nice. So. We'll say co-race of the weekend here. Got a lot of big names here. Probably the 3 of at least the top 5 or 6 best older male horses. And Tom's D'Etat, By My Standards, and Owendale. Obviously, we're missing the West Coast, the other West Coast contingent of McKinsey and Improbable. And I'm
that's
not sure.
Grade 1 and Furlong winner Improbable.
Yeah, and Grade 1 winner Combatant, right? We're going to toss him in here too, right?
We got to throw G1 winner Combatant in there as well.
Goodness. So. Yeah, my guess is that those two are pointing towards the Met Mile, but I don't know. We'll see what happens with some of the travel restrictions. But we're going to be going to 1 1/8 on the main track here. I really kind of like By My Standards here. I think I'm going to go back to the By My Standards well. I know Mark is probably just like shaking his head because he's like, how do you not bet Tom Zata here? Um, but if I'm going horizontally, I am not going to let Tom Zata beat me. So I will be using Tom Zata. Um, unlike the race before with Midnight Bisu, which I will let her beat me. So Tom Zata I'm going to use, but I think my best pick here is going to be by my standards. I'm gonna go with somebody a little bit more forwardly placed. It doesn't really look like we have a true like need the lead type horse here, and by my standards is just in really good form right now. Coming off, I think a more impressive win in the Oaklawn Handicap than maybe Tom Zata was in the Oaklawn Mile. I mean, Tom Zata beat Improbable, right? And you guys hate Improbable, so yeah. I mean,
You did see what Improbable came back to do in his next start, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Man, how come? What the heck? If I'm on Improbable, you guys laugh at me. If I say something bad about Improbable, you're like, did you watch the race?
I hate it. He beat him up loud.
I mean, I like Owendale. I don't know if he's going to get enough of a pace setup here to close into. I think he might need a little bit of pace, kind of going back through. Well, I mean, the Oklahoma Derby, he didn't have much pace, but he beat Sleepy Eyes Todd, who was racing at Will Rogers Downs, I think, or was it Fonner? It was one of those two tracks he won a stakes race at. So it's not like he's keeping great company. And it seems like Owendale hasn't really beaten very many like really, really good horses. The blame is just drawing a blank. I know that I didn't like him there off the layoff, and Everfast ran second, which hurt. But yeah, I really think that by my standards, and Tom Zeta stand, taking the chalk as apparently I'm doing now. But I think by my standards would be top pick here. 5-2, I think, is more than fair. And I mean, outside of maybe like a horse like Pirate's Punch, I don't know who's gonna really try and set a fast enough pace for a horse like Owendale to get something to close in on. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Pirates Punch, Alka Tom, and Silver Dust all are gonna be forwardly placed and fairly aggressive in this race. And I think it just absolutely perfectly sets up Tom Zata. He's going to get some speed up front. There's no need to lead type in here, but I think there's those three all arguably have to be forwardly placed and are going to want to be cranking early. He's going to get pretty much the same setup that he got in the Oaklawn Mile or the Clark or the Fayette or, the Aladar. A mile and an eighth is his distance. It's what he loves. He's perfect there. He can go as short as a mile. Doesn't really want a mile and a quarter, so a mile and an eighth hits him right between the eyes. This is his trip. He's going to get that nice setup, little pace in front. He's going to come rolling late, and I just don't think there's anybody else in here that I can beat him with. It's interesting that Mena gets up here. I think that's the one sort of question mark. Miguel Mena is not the jock I necessarily want on, a G1 or G2 level horse. I guess this is technically a G2, but I think he's going to have fairly simple orders, let those three go to the front, sit right behind him, get him rolling top of the lane. And I think he probably wins this, pretty convincingly. I'm going to be really cute here. I may be just ice cold single to him. I don't even know if I want somebody like by my standards, quite honestly. I want a lot of Tom Zeta here. And albeit, I'll admit the fact that I am a pretty unabashed fanboy here. He's probably my favorite horse in training, right now, quite honestly. So, but yeah, I want a lot of Tom Zeta here. And I think he wins this, 80 or 90% of the time.
Okay, I need somebody in chat. All right, I need somebody in chat. Maybe Dennis, maybe you got to do this. I don't know. I need someone to keep a running tally of every time Mark says something, says this specifically. I'm going to get cute, and then follows whatever he says afterwards, and how often that usually ends very badly for him. Because I swear, you say that, Mark, and then I can already see the DM message coming like an hour after this race. I think I got too cute with so and so. So I just maybe keep a running tally. Just saying. Keep a running tally of that. Keep a running tally of how many times Mark adds a Caleb horse, and it just doesn't turn out right.
Make a soundboard.
What do you think,
That
Caleb?
said, I think so. This is the exact kind of sequence that you look for if you're an ABC player, in my opinion, because there are very clear-cut A's, and then there are very interesting price horses that you acknowledge are probably not going to be your most likely winner. But if you can get around those A's on a ABBA kind of ticket, you can get a really nice payday. And it's also skinny enough that you can play your A's in a for 50 cents. Your all A ticket might be $4, so you can easily slam your A's for 4 or 5, 10 times, whatever you're comfortable with. That being said, Tom's d'Etat is probably going to be my single A here. He might be a stone cold just only horse I use if Rosario came down. I can't trust Mena to just ice cold single this horse. I don't know that he's ever ridden the horse. I don't know that he's ever won a graded stakes. He's an okay Churchill, Kentucky guy, but to me, that's a big enough question mark that I can't just ice cold single him, but he probably will be my single A nevertheless. I'm going to play probably By My Standards as my only B. I do think you need to use that horse to some extent if you're going to use more than one horse in this race. He's never run. He kind of tripped out in his fairgrounds races and got kind of some lucky breaks, but I guess you could argue he even tripped out in his last race, but he won it the way a good horse should, and he's won all 3 of those in the way that a good horse should. So I think this horse is just really sharp right now. It probably needs to be used. The one thing I might look against him is if the track comes up sloppy. I did see Churchill was calling for like a 40% chance of rain when I checked on Saturday.
Storms in really late, so I don't know if it'll affect May.
Yeah, if it comes up sloppy, then I might try to take a shot against him. But if it's a fast track, this is a horse that I think needs used. And then the 2 horses that I'm probably going to include as either B's or C's, probably C's, are going to be the 1 Fearless and the 2 Pirates Punch. Fearless, I think, is a supremely talented horse that just can't get out of his own way. Back in the New Orleans Classic, he just completely missed the break. He had to check. Just a terrible trip behind a really slow pace. And then once again, in the optional 40 at Oaklawn, he kind of whiffed the break. And this is a horse that used to have speed and has kind of now become a dead closer, which is interesting, but tried to make up 18 lengths, which you just can't do. And that was against the juiced out of his mind dumb first off the claim for Diodoro that improved his buyer by like 25 points. Finally ended up getting the win last out at Churchill, and again had to face some adversity, closing into a really slow pace. 49-1 to the half is not fast at Churchill. So he needs to get out of his own way, but if he can get off the break and not be 10 or 12 lengths back, I think this horse is talented, and I do think that the extra 16th here should suit just fine, given that pedigree and the fact he seems like he wants to run all day. So that's one I am interested in a little bit. I would actually take Fearless over Owendale all day. So I'm not going to be using Owendale. And the other one will be the 2 Pirates Punch. Just from a pace perspective, I do think he's your leader. And I think the other potential speeds like Al-Khatam and Silver Dust really don't need the lead. And I think Pirates Punch pretty much does if he's going to run his race. Corey Lannery gave this horse a terrible ride last out from a wide draw, was way too passive, ended up getting hung wide on the turn. And this horse still put in an honest effort, but when you're neck and neck with a closer like Endorsed and Bankit turning for home, you're probably not going to outclose them. So just a terrible ride that race. I don't know that this horse is quite good enough, but I think you'll get every bit of 12 or 15 to 1. And if you can get around Tom's d'Etat and By My Standards here, similar to getting around Bisou and Serengeti last race, you do get paid. So I think he's probably more likely a C horse for me in this spot. But those are the only 2 that I'd look at in addition to Tom's d'Etat and then By My Standards being my A and B.
So real quick for the people in chat, do you guys see this last comment for Pirates Punch? Do you see his last race comment, what it says?
Yeah,
lack punch.
It's beautiful. It's wonderful. Whoever wrote that needs a massive pay raise.
Oh, I forgot what it was. I have to look at at Carly's Twitter. Carly's she's a used to be, I think, a chart writer for Equibase, and she was frequently on Jason Beam's podcast. She works for Arlington now, and somebody had like DM'd her or messaged her like, "Hey, were you responsible for this?" And it was something similar to this. I gotta look it up, but it's pretty funny. Yeah, I think that Pirates Punch. Now I remember it. That was Arkansas Derby Day, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Because I think we were on Pirates Punch there, right? Because he looked like he was going to be like lone speed or going to be a speed of the speed there, right? Yeah. I remember that, and I remember listening to the Timeform US Pacecast, and they were just like, no idea what happened there. Like I was like, yeah, that was the same thing I was thinking. Sorry, I interrupted you, Mark. What was your thought there?
I was going to say that Fearless is the quintessential horse that Caleb talks me into using somewhere and then doesn't fire and misses. And this literally the horse. Caleb made this just gorgeous case for that horse that loves to invent himself trouble and loves to have problems and loves to, loves to invent bad trips and those types of things. And then I add him because, okay, that actually made a lot of sense what Caleb just put together there. And then he finishes, dead last by 50 lengths, and I feel like a moron. The other thing I will say that I didn't mention when I was talking about Tom Sata is that, if you look at his last out, he did absolutely destroyed Improbable. And then if you look at what Improbable came back to do in his next race, toss Figs out of it. I think it really flatters Tom Sata's last performance. He went rolling right on by Improbable with his ears pricked and was totally relaxed, where Improbable was absolutely full out. Maybe Improbable didn't love the surface that day. It was a little bit wet, but I think it flatters him. And I just, I understand what Caleb's saying here with an ABC. How do you structure in this sequence and, not really lever up your A's, but you want to be able to catch those double B type tickets? I don't think this is the race you do it in. Maybe the next is, but I think you get pretty aggressive through Tom Zata, at least if you're me.
I'm trying to find that chart call.
There was a comment on the wrong lead are known Owendale haters. So I'm not using Owendale, and I am an Owendale hater, but are either of you using them?
Well, so I did. No, I'm not using Owendale. He's got to beat some.
I love Owendale. I love this horse. I did not want to bet the horse off the layoff last time. Maybe I should learn my lesson and bet the horse here, but I don't know. I don't think I'm going to get the price I need to bet the horse here. I think I'm gonna by my standards more than Tom.
I remember your whole shtick was he doesn't want a 1-turn mile, and he's getting 2 turns here.
I know right, so I should be using him here. God blessed.
Also with Owendale, who has he ever beat? I mean, he's beat the likes of Silver Dust and Sleepy-Eyed Todd, Chess Chief, Math Wizard, Long Range Toddy, a bunch of horses that are just not that good.
Mr. Freeze.
In defeat, he did beat Mr. Freeze by a head, so for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, because that's okay. It just, in my book, he hasn't really beaten anybody. And I don't know, maybe he jumps forward here and moves up and finds, 7 or 8 buyer points so that he can be competitive here. Obviously, this is probably the target from the blame. This is that second off race point. They were probably pointing him here. But man, he's hard to get to for me.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I like the horse. I don't know if this is going to be the spot for the horse, but we'll take a look. We'll see. Maybe we get a scratch or two, but I mean, unless one of the big horses scratch, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be enough pace for him here. And even if there is, I think off the pace, you probably want Tom Sata more than you want Owendale here. And I like to stay skinny, so I'll probably just stick with those two, Tom Zata and by my standards. I guess if I was ABCing, maybe I would have Owendale as a B or a C, but I think I'd be good. I'd be feeling pretty happy having coverage to both those horses here. But let's move on here to the last race in our pick 4. The aptly named Regret Stakes, as John Massey points out, because you're going to be getting super cute, and then the Regret Stakes coming afterwards. We got grade 3 for a 3-year-old fillies. We're going 1.125 on the turf. Mark, what do you got here after you're out of the pick 4 because you're only using Tom Zata?
Because Josh likes it when I get cute, I'm going to once again get cute in this race. I'm going to be really heavily on 2 horses here. One of them is In Good Spirits, the 4 horse. Horse's second off layoff here is probably the speed of the speed in this race. And there's a pretty good case that this horse gets a little loose. Coming off that tap in as a prep, sets up and I think runs huge here. 8-1 on the morning line. I don't think you get any part of that. I think you get more like 4, 5, 6-1, something like that, probably 5-1 range. But I think, In Good Spirits makes a ton of sense. And then if you're, the other kind of end of that is I want a bit of a closer, and that's Crystal Cliffs, the 5. That was the other horse I wanted in here. Was very good in Europe and shipped to the States and won first out. I think you're going to probably take shorter than the 3-1 morning line here. It's kind of the horse here, and I think this is sort of that next that horse you expect to move forward and become sort of Motion's turf filly 3-year-old, right? Like she's the one that's really set up to become the next really big monster. Johnny V's in for this for this card, and I think probably is most in to ride this horse of the other mounts that you've seen he's had on the card. So I think he's mainly here to ride this one. I would expect it to be a really good horse. But those are the 2 I want the most of. What are you guys thinking?
What do you think,
Yeah.
Caleb?
So I'm with you with Crystal Cliffs. I'm guessing she's the favorite. She probably should be the favorite. She probably is the likeliest winner. So I'm with you there. In Good Spirits is obviously going to be your speed. The way I see it is I think that the 9 Eve of War can probably keep her honest. And then there's also a couple other just off the pace types. But if one of those 2 would scratch, I'd be much more interested in the other one. But as it stands now, I think they probably tire each other out enough on the front to where neither one can wire. I haven't followed Churchill lately, but other than maybe 2 weeks ago. But I know for the first half of the meet when it first started up, it was really hard to wire the turf course here. For some reason, it was just killing speed. So I'm also putting a bit of a speed fade on. So in addition to the Crystal Cliffs, the 2 horses I was interested in was the 1 Dominga and then the 6 Micheline. The 1 I probably like a little bit better, Dominga. This was a horse who was coming off a bit of a layoff last out, and don't be kind of confused about the Tepin Stakes to think that this is a step up in class. That was pretty much the only turf stakes going at that point. That wasn't some shithole turf race at Gulfstream that nobody wants to ship for. So that had Sharing in it. It had Abscond. It had Alms. Probably 2 of the top 3 2-year-old turf fillies in the country at the time. So that was a loaded field, and this horse ran a nice race. Pretty much the same race as Past the Plate, except that she tried to stay inside, whereas Past the Plate went wide, and Dominga found a lot of traffic. Once again, is going to have an inside draw, so and comes from off the pace, so is going to need a bit of a racing luck to work out a trip. But I do think this horse has the talent to definitely fire a big one if Sean Bridgman can work out the right trip here. Brad Cox, always dangerous in Kentucky. So that's kind of the one I'm really looking at. And the other one would be Micheline, the 6. She ran a nice race last out against somewhat of a slow pace, and she beat a nice horse that day in Highland Glory. Highland Glory came back to run second to Sweet Melania last week, I think it was, at Belmont. And Sweet Melania had that field over a barrel, and she was lone speed. Highland Glory actually closed from last into a relatively slow pace, and probably ran maybe not the best race of that day, but by far the second best race, and has turned into a pretty nice filly. So for Micheline to beat that horse, even though she kind of tripped out that day at Gulfstream and Highland Glory had some issues, I still think you have to kind of recognize that and give her some credit here. Joe Bravo comes up for the mount. So that's another one I thought was kind of interesting here. So those are the 3 that I'm most interested in, probably 3 of the bigger closers with Dominga, Crystal Cliffs, and Micheline.
I would say Micheline, I can definitely get behind. Godolphin horse, throwing up some really good races, and the pedigree's there, and she looks like she's the real deal. Dominga, do you know who finished like 3 positions ahead of Dominga in her last race, and you just completely tossed out at double the odds? I get that Dominga obviously had a troubled trip, didn't get the setup she wanted, but I think in my head at least, I would much rather have it in Good Spirits, who's going to be able to get out in front, stay away from all those troubles, over Dominga, who is drawn again inside, has Bridgman, who loves to run horses up, into walls of other horses and invent terrible trips. And I think I just, I can get there. I understand where you're coming. Brad Cox is really good second off the layoff, but she still needs to show that she can take that step forward, where I think somebody like In Good Spirits has already shown they can take a little more of a step forward, and they just need a little bit of a step from there.
Yeah. So my thing with In Good Spirits, and I don't want to be a Miguel Mena hater, but Brisnet shows him as a 1% turf jockey. And unless he's riding bricks and mortar, I don't think I can go to a 1% turf jockey that I'm not in love with angoanyway.
If it makes you feel any better, the 1% that he did win was with this horse. So
yeah, he's gotten 2 turf wins on In Good Spirits. So I mean, I understand stats are stats, but when 2 of them have come on this one horse, I'll kind of throw the stats away.
Yeah, to be fair, and maybe I won't be, what was it Josh called, stubborn or confident. Showing speed and fading off of a long layoff and then coming back second out is an angle I really like. And like I said, it is tough to wire these Churchill turf courses, and May 23rd was when I was watching these races and concluding that. So, she's probably more fit off that last out race. So I probably could get there. And the more I look at her, the more I probably will end up including her in some fashion.
Yeah, and also I wonder a little bit too, like within Good Spirits, if if you look at the times and kind of the pace figures of the mile and 16th race back at Keeneland versus the mile at Churchill, maybe the mile is just too sharp for her. You see this often where you get these speed horses, stretching out just a little bit, and they don't have to push themselves so much early, to still, get that lead. And they stretch out a little bit. So, this is, I definitely think that In Good Spirits is very usable here, especially at 8-1.
I was say, was that just me talking Caleb onto a horse? Is this completely?
Yeah, well, I feel like I want to complain too when they run last.
Yeah, I think my you guys pretty much covered the horses that I'm going to be using here. My favorite horse in here is probably going to be Micheline, Godolphin owned and bred. You got Joe Bravo coming up for this. I don't think Joe Bravo's showing up to lose. Not that he's a big name jock or anything like that right now, but he's he ran rode this horse last time, ran really well. So I'll go back to that Micheline well there. I do like In Good Spirits because I'm a sucker for speed horses. And then, just to not repeat everything you guys just said, 2 horses that I'm looking at a little bit. I don't know yet if I'm going to use or how I'm going to use or what have you. The 10, Harvey's Little Goyle, is interesting to me. It's an American Pharoah filly. They tried her on the turf to start, and first time out didn't win. They brought her back onto a dirt race, and she ran well and won, and then won that stakes at a mile and 1/8 at Aqueduct. Threw a bit of a clunker in the fantasy, and now they're going back to turf. So I don't know if this is hey, we don't know what to do with this horse because the horse has got some talent, but let's try her back on turf, or if they just decide that hey, this horse wants turf all along. Let's put her back on turf here. The dam looks very productive, and American Pharaohs love the turf, so 5-1 might be a little short for me to want to take this horse. But if I get cute in other legs, this might be a leg where, if I spread it a little bit, this might be a horse I'm going to want to use. And then the other horse that I'm going to want to use is going to be the 13 Hendy Woods. And this is purely based off of the form. All right, we have two times on the turf, won the last two. Obviously coming off a layoff, but one fresh both times. So both times off a layoff came back and won. So maybe this is just a horse that for some reason can give one good effort and then is just done. Once again, out of a very productive dam. Uncle Mo is obviously a 15% turf sire, but this horse has already been running on the turf. Is 2 for 2 on the turf, getting a little bit more distance. I don't think with Uncle Mo on the top, I don't think distance is going to be a problem. Only going a mile and 1/8. So I think that this is going to be this is definitely a horse to talk about at 15-1. I doubt we get that. Actually, with as big as this field, we might get it, especially because we got I think my less favorite of the two Declans aboard and Declan Carroll. But Mark Cassie's a pretty sharp trainer. I know he hasn't done very well at Churchill this meet, but I'm not going to hold 3% on 31 races at Churchill against him. I think he's probably still racing most of his horses down in Gulfstream. So
yeah, I don't hate Hendy. This is a good race to spread. Like there's a very legitimate argument to be made that you could do like a 2 or 3 horses in the first leg with 2 singles in the middle and then just hit the all button here. I don't know that I would play it that way. I think I have a little bit more of an opinion there. I think there are some horses here that can't win, but I do think that I wouldn't talk somebody out of doing that because you very well could get lucky, especially if your singles aren't both Midnight Bisou and Tom's d'Etat. But yeah, I definitely could see it with Hendy. I had Harvey's Little Goyle circled and I was kind of interested in her, but 5-1 is just terribly short. I thought I would get 15-1 on that horse. So I definitely can't go there at 5-1, but I agree with you for all the reasons you mentioned. It is an interesting filly here.
So the other one that we didn't talk a ton about, I know Caleb briefly mentioned, is Eve of War, the 9. That's a horse that I definitely want to include, probably as a B for me. If you watch her last race, she got absolutely mugged going into the first corner, completely steadied, completely taken out of it, and then never re-rallied, which she had no right to do. She finished 12th by a million miles. So she's got that kind of dirtied up form. You're seeing 12-1 on the morning line. Her 2-back race was really good. And I think she's the type, she's going to be forward, should be forwardly placed if she doesn't get, beaten up. And if she doesn't, this outside draw does not help her a ton. But, Flo is really good in Kentucky and really good on the turf. So I like him getting up here. And I think she's the type that at 12-1 makes quite a lot of sense and probably ends up being a B on my tickets.
So interestingly, Mark, now that you mentioned Eve of War, I decided to go back and look real quick. So I'm looking at the 4 In Good Spirits, right? And this is, especially if you're someone who uses Brisnet, this is something that I always recommend you do. As much as I do love how they give you like the run styles and the speed points and stuff like that, somebody might look at In Good Spirits, see the E8, and be like, okay, there's no other like anything. This horse is going to get to the lead. Like this is probably the fastest horse. Blah blah blah. But it's important to note. All right, if we look at In Good Spirits, like E1 and E2 pace ratings, they're fairly good. I mean, I could see her possibly getting the lead here. But when you look at Eve of War, if you throw out that last race where she steadied, this horse is faster early, actually. I mean, this horse wired a race at 6 furlongs, and then came back and wired another race at a mile and 1/8 on the turf. And it looks like at much faster fractions. It looks like even than what In Good Spirits is going. So maybe Evil War is our speed. I know we got Flo Giroux aboard, who isn't necessarily known for being aggressive, but I have been proven wrong before. And if Flo gets a little aggressive with this horse, maybe this horse is faster early than a horse like In Good Spirits.
Man, yeah. If you could give me Saez on that horse, I would be all over it. But giving me Flo, like, other than maybe like Leperoux, he's probably one of the last jocks I want on a horse that needs to make the lead and isn't the inside drawn speed. But that being said, I think he's a very usable B, and all your points about the pace figures are right. I think it's more of a question of tactics than it is just natural ability.
Yeah, and I guess another horse I kind of want to bring up. I don't think I'm going to use this horse, but I want to mention it because I noticed that this horse finished in front of a couple of the horses that we've talked about, which is the 12 past the plate. Did you talk about this 12 at all, Mark?
I did not talk about the 12, mainly because of A, jock, and B, position being drawn way, way, way outside. But I understand where you're going, so I'll let you have it.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a couple other horses that that ended up with that we're looking at and ended up finishing behind this horse. I mean, this horse lost to Abscond and Sharing, who are two very, very, very good horses here. And if you look at past the plate's last trip, looks like it was in the 7 path and was gaining late. So, I mean, unless for some reason the 7 path was the place to be that day, which, I mean, I don't know how you find that out because you normally aren't in the 7 path. This horse is probably, I'm sure, like on something like the sheets. I wonder, the sheets probably gave this, man, this horse was 7 wide. Are you kidding me? They probably gave this horse like a -1. But this horse has definitely beat a couple that are in this race. So this is probably a horse that I would maybe take a deeper look at, maybe watch the replay and kind of see, especially because I think you got 2 or 3 other horses coming out of this race. So this might be a good one to go back and watch and kind of see. I'm going to kind of take a quick back look here at chat. Sam's asking about the just a game. I think since we got through these races so fast, maybe we'll take a quick look. So, Mark, I know you haven't looked yet. So if you want to try and pull up Belmont real quick, maybe we'll look at a couple of the stakes races there.
Which race?
Just a comment, Josh. So that's kind of the race I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Dominga. Dominga and the 12 horse past the plate had very similar trips until the stretch. Really past the plate, saved all the ground until she was almost out of the turn and then tipped out wide in the stretch. Whereas Dominga stayed inside and found traffic. So I don't know that the 7 path is quite, it isn't like she was strung 7 wide across both turns or anything like that. I still think she's usable, but I think the post plus, I just don't know that she's quite that good. If I'm picking between the two of them, I'd rather have Dominga being drawn inside with better connections and probably should have finished better than she did last time if she didn't end up finding some traffic.
And maybe I'm just greedy, but like when I see a 13 horse turf race, it's like, man, come on, give me 8-1 on somebody, right? Like, I don't want to get this like 4-1 horse or something. Maybe I'm just being greedy, and that's why I'm like looking at these slightly longer priced horses. I mean, I didn't even talk about the favorite, but I think you guys, I mean, if you look at the breeding on this horse, I mean, this horse is probably a turf monster. So obviously, I think you're going to have to use the 5 here. Grand Motion, I think, has been on fire the past couple months. And Johnny V was, I think, one of the only New York jocks who actually looked like he gave a shit riding at Churchill. So I think that. That Crystal Cliffs is probably going to be a little hard to beat here, but I think there's a couple of ways you can go if you're looking to try to spike a price here. We're talking, someone says that Sunday's closing day. I don't know. I haven't looked. I only pulled up Saturday, so I'll have to look. Dennis is asking scale of 1 to 10, how crazy am I? And then there's more text, but I'm going to say 10 without even reading the rest of it.
Dennis likes the 2.
Oh, he likes the 2. Who's that? His Glory? Yeah, His Glory.
I wouldn't say you're crazy. I don't like the horse. I think it's leaving 2 better barns to go to an okay, but not as good barn with a different jock and stepping way up in class.
I'm just saying, like, this horse might win, but if the horse wins, probably in about 3 or 4 weeks, that win will be vacated. No, is that okay? Sorry, you were saying, Caleb?
I don't think you're crazy for picking almost anything in this race. It looks pretty open, but like I think you need 30-1 to go to the horse like the 2.
And so John saying that this smells like a race where I get screwed by Joe Bravo, and of course I mentioned the Bravo horse. or Leparu knowing how to play the Churchill and just knifing in the stretch. I'll tell you, like, as much shit as we give Julian and Flo, the one place riding at Churchill or Fairgrounds or Keeneland on the turf is probably like the one place where I will give them the benefit of the doubt. So I hear you, man. I would maybe take a look at the 12. And I see Caleb, you already got cute counter. John saying 2. Let's see. Evil Bob Dole says all / Serengeti Empress Midnight Bisu / Tom's d'Etat / all profitable. What's that come out to? How expensive a ticket is that?
6 or 7 horses in the 2-year-old race, and then there's 13 in the last leg.
So 12 times 13, what is that?
Where'd you get 12 times? Oh yeah, because he's using both.
Yeah.
Probably like 157, 156.
I think that's profitable, quite honestly.
Yeah, and then I mean, if you're playing at the 50-cent base, that's half that, so you're looking at like $75-$80.
Like if it chalks out, if you get Bisu, Tom, and then like Crystal Cliffs, and then a not bomb in the 2-year-old leg, I doubt it'll pay $75.
Yeah, you'll get like maybe like $30 back or something.
Yeah, but if you get a non-favorite in the first leg and then catch a price in the second leg, or no, I'm sorry, the last leg of your alls, I think you can get paid.
I would say instead of playing that, I would slam the Serengeti Empress Tom's d'Etat double. I think your reward is better there, and because if the chance of either the first or the last race chalks out, or both of them chalk out, your pick 4 is going to pay nothing. I think you're better off just to leverage up the double on those 2 middle races.
And of course, John's got to point me out. I said the one place, and then I proceeded to name 3 places. So, yeah, my bad. Yeah, so John says 156. So I think it's half that if you're playing the 50-cent base. I've actually, and while we, I think we kind of put a bow on this, the Churchill card, and I'm gonna load up.
Dude, we did 4 races in an hour for us.
Yeah, so Evil Bob Dole says it normally takes us 2 hours to get through 4 races. So this is
now Evil Bob Dole did imply there's an inverse relationship between the quality of the quality of the field and the amount of time we spend on it. Sort of the better the field, the less time there's 2 horses that make sense. You're going to spend like an hour on that race, kind of a thing. So I think we just proved him wrong, which was awesome.
Yeah. So real quick, there were a couple things. So Mark, what are you drinking over there?
Boulevardier again, but I use some of the Woodford Barrel Strength with it, which is
Woodford Barrel Strength. When did you get that? The batch proof?
No, it's barrel strength. I think. But yeah, is it batch proof? It's like 107% alcohol, something crazy.
That's supposed to be really good. I've never had that. Wow.
They had it at my place, so I grabbed some, and I figured it would be, a little more cut to it, be a little more aggressive to mix.
Isn't it like $120 bottle? You're making mixed drinks with like $120 bottle?
That's just how I roll.
Oh my god, dude! I hope Polka Dot Taylor's not in the chat right now.
Drinks like that.
Well, actually, so funny story. So, I actually don't hate it, Mark, mostly because you're making a drink that is all booze. There's no there's no filler. There's no you're not using like lime juice. You're not using soda or anything like that. Which I think always in that case, like for like a Manhattan, for example, I feel like a more expensive rye really does shine through in something like a Manhattan or even like an old fashioned. If you don't really do like the splash of soda, but mostly I think Manhattan, since you don't really use too much ice. I think that you can definitely cut through. I tend to use for a lot of my bourbon based drinks. I use oh crap, what is it? Old Grandad 114. Which is really good. But you gotta like the Beam Funk. You gotta like Jim Beam stuff. If you don't like Jim Beam stuff, then you probably won't like it. It's got that little bit of like sour to it. But I'm on the McKenna Bottled and Bond here, and I got Rare Breed rare breed here for next. I actually was started with Green Label earlier today. It's nice.
Thank you. I know you were asking.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a little it's a little smoky, but it's not like super overpowering. So it's just good. It's different. It's different than anything else I have, which I appreciate. We were talking earlier about Macallan, and I'm like, Macallan just kind of reminds me a little bit more of like the other whiskeys I have. But I kind of like the other ones a little bit more. What do you got there, Caleb? Yeah, you took a sip of it. You took a sip of it before we started, and you were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, I got some 1792 foolproof.
Oh, the foolproof, nice,
yes, sir. So it's a bit of a heavy hitter, but it's pretty good. You're not going to want to have 4 or 5 of them, but it's nice. It's like 125 proof, but it doesn't it's not unpleasant going down. So it's pretty solid. I've heard good things about it, so I wanted to try it. I just picked it up the other day.
Yeah, I've heard really good things about it, but I haven't had a chance. It's like one of those things that they keep in the back, and I was just like, man, it's like sometimes I just hate asking because it's like I feel like I go in every week. I'm like, what do you got in the back? What do you got in the back? What do you got in the back? It's like, while there's like 200 fucking bottles like just like sitting out, and I'm like, I don't want any of these 200. I want to know what's in the back. What 2 bottles do you have back there? So did they have a lot of that by you?
So I went to a different place, and this was the first time I've seen that. They actually had a really good Scotch selection, like really good. Their bourbon selection was actually not very good, but so this was the best thing I could find. That I wasn't going to spend Boss Hog or something on. So this wasn't bad. I think it was like $48 or so. So it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it's about the same price as Rare Breed.
Yeah, it's similar. It's similar to Rare Breed. It doesn't have that wild turkey funk to it, but it's similar in proof and price.
Yeah, I like Rare Breed. I like most of the wild turkey stuff. There is a new, real quick. There's a new like wild turkey that came out. I know the stores by me did store picks that did. What is it? Kentucky Spirit store picks, which is I think wild turkey 101, but I think aged longer or something. So. And it's like a $50 or $60 bottle. Then they had Russell Reserve store picks, and then they had I think like some like Wild Turkey Master Keep series or something. Once again, this is shit that they keep in the back, and I'm just like, I don't fucking feel like asking for any of this. So,
by the way, Dennis, I am known as the expensive bourbon guy at my local liquor store. So I walk in and they go, "Oh, hey, I got some of this in the back if you're interested in it," and they go get me things because I'm that customer.
I appreciate it, Mark, because that's how I got that E.H. Taylor rye.
I have a case coming, so fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Let's take a look at some of these Belmont races. Caleb, was there anyone in particular you kind of wanted to look at?
They're all good. The Just a Game is the one that's probably on everybody's mind, or what should be renamed as the Chad Brown Stakes, even though it's already named after a Chad Brown trained horse. But yeah, that's probably the one everyone's most interested in. But I could talk about any of these graded stakes in the back half of the card.
Yeah, this Just a Game came up just brutal. This is like the who's who of, what angle do you want to play? Is, the new newspaper of record, the real newspaper of record? Does Uni come back off the long layoff as a, 6-year-old to be the, Uni that we knew last year, who was just an absolute freak? Is somebody like Beau Recall step up? Got Stormy is in here, who is, on her day can be an absolute freak as well. This race just came up crazy, crazy good. I mean, I think for me, it all goes through Uni, and it's just, I understand the logic of, okay, there's a bunch of Chads in here, and which one is it their day? I think Uni's the best of the best. I don't think Chad mucks around here in getting her sort of, we're going to throw in a G1 as a prep kind of a thing. I bet you she's loaded here, and I think it's her race, and I would probably play it accordingly.
Yeah, I see it the same way. Uni's the horse to beat here. She's the best turf miler in the country. She won the Breeders' Cup last year. She's the horse to beat. Newspaper's the horse that I don't know what you do with. Does all 4 wins come over yielding ground? Is she just a soft ground specialist? Did they figure her out last time? Does she have to have the lead? Can she rate? There's just so many questions with this horse that I feel like we didn't get answered last time. Like, okay, she ran well and looked good, but she ran the race that we knew she could run. Like, I'm still curious to see, can she handle firm ground, and how far does she want to go, and can she rate? And I think probably, assuming she's second choice behind Uni, I think that might be a horse I want to get around a little bit. But yeah, like you could make a case for any one of these. I think most of these horses are grade 1 winners already. So really just a stacked field. I'll be using Uni most prominently. And I will say that I think Got Stormy is the horse here that is probably going to get overlooked just because she's kind of tailed off in her form lately. But I've always said she's like the definition of a miler. Yeah, mile and a 16th is every bit of a 16th too far. And if you look, they kind of ran her in some places that didn't make that much sense. She lost to River Boyne to back, and then just, sort of was going a little too far. So she's the one that I think Saez fits this horse really well. He ought to stay close enough to the pace to make an early move here. And I think of the other ones, she might get overlooked a little bit. I don't have morning line, so I don't know what she is, but I think she's the one that you might want to keep an eye on if she gets up to the 4-1 or 5-1 range.
I have her 5-1 on the morning line, and when you talk about the definition of a miler, she's 8 for 15 at the distance, and she's 14 of 15 hitting the board. So she loves this distance. I mean, and she's gone versus the boys multiple times, and like in the 4-star Dave, where she just romped. I keep discounting her. She's a horse that every time I'm like, she's a horse I'd never loved for some reason, and I always kind of ignore her, and she always burns my ass whenever I do. Multiple time graded, G1 winner. She's the real deal, and you're getting 5-1 on her. If you just kind of, you have to discount those last 3 or so races. Maybe it was just that sort of back end of the, back end of that sort of 19, beginning of 20 year, back into the 2019, early part of the 2020 season. Is she just, second off the layoff here? Is this kind of the race? Was this the target all along? And does she step forward here? I think you're getting paid probably the right price to try to figure out if that's the case. And no, I think she's my second choice after Uni, quite honestly.
Got Stormy, top pick.
Ooh,
I actually am really surprised if Got Stormy is really 5-1 on the morning line. That's insane. If you look at her stats, right, 8 wins at the distance. If you look at her turf overall stats, has 8 wins. Like, she only wants to go a mile. The 5 times out of the 5 times they've tried her at a distance other than a mile, she has 1 third place finish. That's it. So for a horse as classy as Got Stormy, I think that they just got to know what she is and run her at a mile. I mean, lost to River Boyne at Santa Anita, which is River Boyne is kind of like a Santa Anita, maybe Del Mar too, turf specialist. So, I mean, I guess
Retired.
and retired. Yeah, I actually on the podcast I mixed River Boyne up with Rushing Fall for some reason, because I think that those are both POW show horses, and I was like, wait, did Rushing Fall get retired? Luckily, I edited it all out. So, because especially I looked up and it looks like Rushing Fall worked out like 3 days ago. But but yeah, so I think that I'm gonna take a shot here. I think with Got Stormy, of the two Chad horses here. Well, I mean, I know Regal Glory's in here too, but is there another Chad? Do we have 4 Chads in this race, or we only got 3?
Sorry.
Okay, I gotta make sure there's not like a 4th Chad getting ready to come out of nowhere. But I think Got Stormy is going to be the horse I'm gonna play mostly through, and then I'm not going to get beat by Uni. I will let Newspaper Record beat me. I can't trust her off of that one, 7 furlong race, the Intercontinental. We'll see what happens when she comes back this race. I mean, if she wins, she wins. I mean, I would say that they figured her out and they finally just let her run. But Arad has given questionable rides on Newspaper Record before. So hopefully they just let her go and just let her do her thing. But the question is, does she want that cut in the ground? Does she want the the yielding, the good, the other types of turf that we tend not to run on? Maybe they should just send her over to Europe and see what she does. I don't fucking know. But yeah, I think that Got Stormy and Uni are who I'm going to play mostly around. But I think Got Stormy at the price, I think, is the play here.
I'm going to say something really stupid here, and that's going to be that I think Newspaper of Record is the third most likely Chad winner in this race. I think I would put her below Regal Glory. And I don't necessarily know with Newspaper of Record. Obviously, she was a freak as a 2-year-old. But was she a freak because she was really that good, or a freak because she kept catching off turf, which she's not going to get here? And also, you can make a pretty good argument that she was just the speed of the speed in every one of her 2-year-old races. And she desperately needs the lead, and I don't think she gets loose on the lead here. I think she gets pace pressure specifically from inside. With somebody like, I think Got Stormy can go with her. And Valedictorian can definitely go with her. So I think she gets a ton of pace pressure in here. She's not going to get loose and comfortable on the lead. And every single win she's ever had, she's been first at, well, I guess technically her maiden score, she passed a horse, but every other time she has been loose on the lead, gotten really comfortable, and just dominated a race. She's not going to dominate this. And I just, maybe they figured something out. Maybe the long laugh did something. I just think at 8-5, that's way too short of a price to be playing that gamble that, they figured something out in the offseason and that she's a different horse now as a 4-year-old versus a 3-year-old. To me, there's other things going on there, whether it's the cut in the ground or whether she's just a desperate need to lead type. But I might not use her at all here.
I think we kind of covered this one. Top pick real quick, just going around. I mean, I think Got Stormy is probably the pick at the price. Yeah, you two both like Uni most. It sounds like.
Yeah, he's my top.
Uni's a lucky winner, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't see morning lines. I'm assuming she's probably even money, so I would take Got Stormy 5-1. What is she?
7-5.
Okay, I don't know if you'll get that.
I don't think you'll get it. I would imagine your even money point is probably about what you'll get.
So yeah, I would take Got Stormy at 5-1, but I think Uni's the likeliest winner.
Let's take a look real quick at the True North. The True North was another race that was pretty interesting to me, because I see a couple of horses in here that I'm very curious how they're going to run. One being Promises Fulfilled, coming off the layoff, was looked to be rounding in the form, being one of the best sprinters in the country, and then started facing older, and in his 4-year-old season, I guess the what's the best word for it? It was pretty disappointing, right? I think we all thought that Promises Fulfilled would be, top 2 or 3 sprinters, and I mean, won a grade 2 last year, but other than that, really kind of just faded into obscurity for a little bit, to where I think a couple weeks ago, I think I asked, where the hell is Promises Fulfilled? And looks like showing up here at the True North. And Frenzy Fire looks like running back here again, second off the Service Juice. So real interesting to see how Frenzy Fire runs here, second off. And then Diamond King interests me a little bit, coming back to a shorter distance. I think this might be a little sharp for Diamond King. I think he wants longer. I think he's a 7 furlong 1 mile type horse. Did not fire a super great effort at the Blame last time out. But I think it might be a horse I'm going to take a look at. Coming out of it. But I think the 2 horses that I'm probably going to be keying around are going to be Promises Fulfilled and Diamond King in this race. What do you think, Caleb?
Yeah, this is a race that first off, I'm not going to use Frenzy Fire, but this is the race that I want a horse with his run style, which is I want that sit third or sit fourth kind of horse behind Diamond King and Yorkton and Promises Fulfilled, because I really think he gets a perfect trip here. But the thing was, there's no excuse last time. No excuse for that effort. You could say maybe he didn't like the slop, I guess, but he does have a win in the slop already. I just don't think he's the same horse off the juice. He backed up the whole way. I'm not going to use him here, but he should get the perfect trip. And if he's remotely the same horse as he was in the service barn as he is now, he should win this race. That being said, Promises Fulfilled is a horse that's probably going to be too short, but I'm probably going to use anyway. I think he's the most talented of the speeds in this race. He had some bad luck, as well as just kind of disappointed last year. He caught a dead rail at Saratoga when he was dueled into submission by Matoli. Okay, that's fine. He then came back and caught another kind of closer favoring track in Keeneland when Whitmore and Engage and Lexingtonian all closed to run 1, 2, and 3. On his best day, he makes a lot of sense here. He's coming off the layoff. He had an ankle surgery. I think the horse makes some sense. I don't love him, but I think I'm going to use him. I don't love anybody in this race. A horse like Yorktown is tough for me to get to. He's another pace player, I guess. Like, I would love to find an off the pace horse I could trust here, but Wicked Trick, Wait for It, both look too slow. Stand the Man, I guess, like if you really trust Rosario, but he's been kind of blasted in his last 2 starts. And now he moves up in class. Diamond King, I agree with you. It's probably too sharp. Like if I was going to really get add one to the Got Cute counter, I would actually take a slight glance at Midnight Charlie, only because it seems so odd that Kendrick gets up on this horse. And this horse didn't run that poorly to run second to Frenzy Fire, to the juiced up good version of Frenzy Fire. But I'll be the first one to tell you that's a huge reach. So yeah,
JJ's aboard Midnight Charlie.
Yeah, what did I say?
You said Kendrick.
I'm sorry, I meant JJ. Yeah, that's what I meant is JJ. The fact that your A-list top tier Naira jock takes this mount for a relatively unknown trainer who shipped this horse here for a very specific purpose. To me, that's interesting. And I don't think this horse is probably good enough, but I imagine you'll get 25 to 1. So I'd look at him a little bit only because I think he might get a good pace to run at. But yeah, it's not a race I have a strong opinion in, but it's a good race to watch and a good race to bet.
One thing,
real quick, Mark, since I don't know why I pulled the Brisnets today and they didn't have the morning line yet. Can you run down the morning lines real quick?
Yeah, Diamond King is 5 to 1, Midnight Charlie 20 to 1, Wicked Trick 10 to 1, Wait for It 12 to 1, Yorkton 10 to 1, Stand the Man 20 to 1, Promises Fulfilled 7 to 5, and Friesen Fire 2 to 1.
7 to 5. Oh, that's terrible.
And a Frenzy Fire. Get the hell out of here.
God, both of those favorites are ones I really want to beat.
Yeah, I will say, you guys, I've looked through this really quickly. Couple things to note here. First thing, JJ Castellano is very notorious for getting on no-name trainers from out of town and doing very well on them. He's that jock that really doesn't have an affiliation with a barn, and he will float wherever he needs to be. And he's kind of that ringer jock that it's notorious at Saratoga. He'll get up on a trainer that's gotten 3 starts in the past 5 years. It will win going away, and you'll be like, wait a second, what was that? So JJ is... that's very interesting, him getting up on that horse. The other thing I'll say is there's a pretty high chance of thunderstorms all day on Saturday at Belmont. If this takes some water, the complexion of this race really, really changes in my mind. And a lot of those horses, Midnight Charlie, Wicked Trick, Wait for It. Who else has got wins? Stand the Man. Those kind of horses that have some wins and have actually had some really good success on an off track, all of a sudden become really, really interesting. They're calling for quite a bit of rain. It looks like, they're calling for like 0.4 inches or something, and thunderstorms all day starting first thing in the morning. So if it does, if they do catch a bunch of rain, I think it really changes the complexion. But honestly here, I think even without that being said, this is the kind of race I want to really buy. I don't trust Promises Fulfilled. Promises Fulfilled is, I think, the best horse in the race. Friesen Fire out of the service barn, like you guys have already said, I think that's a scary, scary thing. Maybe didn't just handle the off going the last out, but that's a big excuse to make it 2 to 1. And then
it might get the same. It might get the same off track here too.
Off track here, so I definitely don't want the horse if it comes up sloppy. That's an absolute toss for me. And you get into that situation where after that, you really jump off a cliff, and there's no stand. You know, I mean, the two of them, if you look at figs, tower on figs. They have those, big, 100, kind of numbers. 108 for promises fulfilled. Everybody else in this race has run, well, I mean, Wicked Trick has ran a 101, but everybody else is sort of in those 90s range. There's a big gap between the top two and everybody else. But it's one of those races where I sort of want to use everybody else because I don't really trust either of the favorites.
Dude, real quick, I just looked at I was looking at Promises Fulfilled, and then I went back and I saw that Golden Shaheen. Was that the race that Matera Sky was like leading the entire way and looked like he was about to win at like a really huge price, and me and you were both on it, Mark? Was that was that it? Was that it? Oh my god. Stupid XY jet. Yeah, this I mean, I like Promises Fulfilled. I like him a little bit less in seeing that he's a favorite here, but that may make sense. Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the longer priced horses, they all have off track form. So it's going to be really interested to see what happens with if we get a little bit of rain. Kind of going back, it looks like yeah, okay, it looks like Road Warrior says 0 to 5% chance all day. Mark is saying to go look at Weather Underground. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Steven says Promises Fulfilled is a perfect example of a pace of races. If he gets uncontested, he can win. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how. I mean, I think he's just that fast, though. I think that there isn't going to be anybody who can keep up with him. Like Diamond King is a E-type horse, likes to get the lead, is a need the lead type. But he's a miler, get the lead type. He's got mile speed. He does not have 6.5 for a long speed, I don't think.
No, he can't go with Promises, I don't think. Even Kendrick Rail helps, but yeah, I'd be surprised.
Terry Hartman's asking kind of an unrelated question, asking about what the best software to handicap horses. None of us actually use software. Well, Mark uses Formulator, which is pretty close to software. It's web based, but the rest of us just use the old PDF or paper form. Obviously, I have Brisnet up here. We look at this usually. Mark is mostly through DRF. Caleb is mostly Brisnet with some sheets, and some of us use Timeform occasionally, which is also web based kind of a program. So.
Yeah, when you say program, you have to sort of clarify what you mean. Do you mean some sort of analytics software that helps you analyze PPs, or are you talking about a program? There are software programs that will take a data feed and spit out analytics, and if you're looking for certain angles, like you're looking for lone speed types, or a single E only, E type horse in a race kind of things, they'll find those races for you that will give you kind of positive ROI angles. Depends what you mean, but yeah, I use Formulator and Optics personally. I mean, Formulator is kind of a software program. It allows me to do a lot of analytics and deep dive.
Oh, I started looking. I'm going to take a quick look here at the New York here, mile and a quarter in the inner turf. And I mean, I think there's only 2 horses that win this race, but I was sitting here and I just like something like really popped out at me. But then I remembered it's a 1.5 mile race at Aqueduct, and I was looking at Fool's Gold, like looking at his pace figs and speed figs. Really important to note, if you are a Brisnet person, for some reason, long races always get huge numbers. So please pay attention to that. When you see these big old numbers and then you see it's a 1.5 miles, for some reason, whatever formula Brisnet uses does not calculate anything more than like 1.25 miles very well. So just when you start seeing these really huge numbers, it's really easy to look at Fool's Gold and be like, oh my God, look at these 123, 137 E1, E2 ratings. This horse is going to get the lead and just blow the doors off everybody. Like, no, like temper your expectations when you see these really long races. So, I mean, this looks like Mean Mary gets an easy lead and probably just wires this, right? Like,
Yeah,
do we need to like talk? Like, the only other horse I think here that might be able to win would be Mississippi, and even then, I think that is a stretch because you would essentially need horses that are not as fast as Mean Mary to press Mean Mary, and I just don't see that happening here.
Yeah, I think the morning line here is drunk. They have Call Me Maybe or Call Me Love as the favorite at 9-5, and they have Mean Mary at 7-2. That seems completely hilariously backwards. I think Mean Mary wins this, 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, something like that. I think she should be the favorite here. So they moved it since they've gotten her and on longer turf races. She's just been an absolute monster, and she's won for fun. She's going to be the controlling speed in this race, and she wants this type of longer turf route races. This falls right in her wheelhouse, and I just think she's a monster here, especially at that 7-2. If you can get anywhere near that, I think that's you back the truck up. I mean, she's won her last three straight and 4 out of her last 5. And if you look at everything over, if you toss the 1 mile race, she's won her last 4. So I think she's going to be really, really, really tough here.
Yeah, and the case I'll make for Mississippi is right. If you look at her first race here in the States, won pretty convincingly. I think we were all on her in the Glens Falls last year in Saratoga. Shout out to John Clandon, who I think lives in Glens Falls. He might even work for Glens Falls now that I think about it. Right, he lives in Glens Falls, right?
Yeah, I think he's in Glens Falls. Yeah,
I think so. If not, you're a Glens Falls person, and hopefully that's a derogatory term. But if you look at the horses that Mississippi has lost to, I mean, Sister Charlie, Iridessa, Vasilika, like any of those horses here tower over the field. So on kind of class, I think Mississippi has probably been keeping better company. I mean, ran a tired 9th last time out, so didn't exactly impress at the BC Filly Mares, but her other 2 stakes tries here in the States were really good. So what do we got at Mississippi? What kind of line do we got?
They were at 5-2. They actually have her at second choice, and they've Mean Mary at third choice. So again, morning line here is hilariously bad.
Yeah, I've been waiting so long to play against Mean Mary because, I think she's a nice filly. She's gotten away with murder in her last 3 races on the lead, just with the most ridiculous fractions as lone speed. But there just really aren't any fillies that want to go these marathon races on the turf that have early speed. These Chad Brown horses are typically not set up for these kind of early speed. Now, I don't think Mean Mary's actually gone up against any monsters in her career, so there's maybe a bit of a class test, but she has arguably the best jock for stealing it on the front end on the grass. And I don't know, my sister Nat has disappointed so many times. I want to be against Mean Mary, but I'm not sure how. And at 7-2, I don't know that I can be. 9-5 on the 1 horse feels like a terrible price here. I don't know if Alvarado had choice, and if he did, and he ends up on the 2. That's also a little bit interesting. So I don't know. I do like Mississippi here, but I think Mean Mary is the horse that you want at 7-2.
Yeah, and one thing that Evil Bob Dole did point out as well is going from DURF to real turf. The Gulfstream Park turf course is notoriously speed favoring. So just something to keep in mind. I know Bayer tends to make adjustments for the speed of the track, like Gulfstream figures and stuff like that. But if you look at the speed figures on Briz, they're all computer generated. So that 113 that Mean Mary ran last time, I mean that's equivalent to 92 to 95 on Briz. What does Briz have it?
They have Mean Mary as a 97.
97. Okay. So they gave her pretty close to what she should be. But
is there any chance we see the other Chad Brown here, Fool's Gold, go out there to set an honest pace for the stablemate, my sister Nat?
I don't think Fool's Gold can. I mean, that's just not her run style. And she's shown some speed, but she showed speed in a paceless Glens Falls and a paceless Waya. Sure, maybe they do that, but I mean, Manny is getting up and JJ gets off, so you got to assume she's probably the setup horse.
Chad's
Maybe.
on the record saying this really wasn't where he wanted to bring her back, but just kind of wants to get a race in her. They patented trainer speak of we expect her to step forward out of this race. So definitely not a horse I'm going to use, but one that I'm kind of interested to see. Is he just going to let her run in place, or is he going to send this one to try to set it up for the stablemate? More of tactics than anything else.
Yeah,
Could this?
I mean,
Who was the rabbit for Sister Charlie all the time?
Face.
Yes, Face. Could this be the next Face?
the case for Thace, is that what we're going with?
I've
No.
been thinking about that the whole time.
Yeah, no, I mean, my sister Nat, I think, is a legitimate horse. She was good in Europe, and it's odd. Normally these Peter Brandt shippers that come in and drop into the Chad Brown, bar tend to turn into monsters, and she just hasn't been that great in the States. And I don't think my sister Nat gets the pace setup she needs. She needs this to get kind of, saucy up front. Does Call Me Love try to go? I mean, Call Me Love's the other speed in here, right? And I just don't think she can go. And I think once again, Mean Mary gets away with murder on the front end, and the race goes through her. And at 7-2, if I can get anywhere near that, I'll probably get stupidly inappropriate with a win bet.
So, just real quick, and Caleb, I know you have the Brisnet up. Take a look at the average winning distance for Call Me Love. That's it's impressive.
Yeah, it's that European breeding for you.
European breeding. Like this horse can probably run all day. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Call Me Love does second time out. Second time Lasix, yeah. I'm gonna want to try and get around Mean Mary, I think, but if Mean Mary really is gonna be third choice here, I mean, it's gonna be hard to try and bet against her. I mean, we're on the inner turf here, so the inner turf tends to be more speed favoring. So, yeah, I mean, at those prices, I think Mean Mary's who I'd look at. But I think as far as horses, I'm gonna want to bet. I think Mississippi, Mean Mary, and probably Call Me Love in that order. So I'll try to beat one of these horses, probably whichever of the three is shortest priced, and take one of the other two. But I think that's probably going to be Mean Mary, Mississippi.
Yeah, I'll probably only use two here. I'll be very much through Mean Mary and maybe using Call Me Love as a B. And I probably don't want anybody else in here.
Yeah, I don't have the structure worked out yet. But the horse I thought I wanted to get around being Mean Mary, I thought she'd be 2-1, is probably a co-favorite. At 7-2 and it's third or fourth choice, I no longer want to get around her, and she probably is the focal point of my ticket. But yeah, I'll be playing a lot through her, and then I agree. Mississippi, I think, is interesting. Probably my second pick. I haven't decided how deep I'll go here.
Yeah, the other price that I find a little interesting here is Valiance, who's actually 3 for 3 on turf. This will be the first 4-year-old start on turf, and JJ chose to get off and go, get off Fool's Gold and go here, and he definitely rides a lot for Chad and does very well for Chad. So him hopping off to jump on a Pletcher horse says something. I don't know how I use the horse, B or a C. It's not a horse I'm going to feature, prominently, but paid big money for this horse. Tap it out of Empire Maker, 3 for 3 on the turf, ton of turf pedigree. May not set up perfectly for her, but she's sort of interesting as an outsider here.
All right, we got a couple more minutes. Let's try and get through this seventh race. And it looks like you guys got a 2-for-1 feature here with the vagrancy. 6.5 furlongs here, grade 3. Actually, I'm looking at the conditions, and the conditions say Jakarta owes me money. So,
this race.
Yeah, I mean, fucking Jakarta.
We were all over that horse.
Yeah, we were all over that horse, and
really wrong.
And the worst part is the horse didn't even get the lead. Like, I think the newspaper record just wired that, didn't she?
Yeah, Jakarta didn't get to the front.
Yeah, our hustle bug didn't hustle enough, and now we're getting another hustle bug up, which Yeah.
What's is Jakarta the favorite here?
I'm sure.
Yeah, totally. Short favorite. Yeah, 1-2.
Shut up. 1-2.
Jakarta's 20-1.
Jakarta's
You didn't
20-1.
Yeah,
Did you?
yeah. Come Dancing is 7-5. Come Dancing wins this 95% of the time. You're nuts going any other way.
Oh, dude, I am all over Jakarta at 20-1. Are you kidding me, dude? I'm fucking dude. This horse owes me money. All right, I'm getting my money back on this horse.
Jakarta can't be used here, and sorry. She owes me money too, but this ain't it. This ain't the time to get your money back.
She's gonna pay me back. She'll pay me back some other point. This is not that time.
Yeah, I don't know what the odds are, but I expect Come Dancing and Mother to take money. I hate Mother. And Come Dancing I respect, but a horse I like better is actually Royal Charlotte on the 1. I don't know what you're getting, probably like 7-2.
7-2 on Royal Charlotte, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, was up against it pace-wise last time. I actually had the winner that day, Lone Speed, didn't look fast enough, but was Lone Speed, and was able to just steal it on the front end over a sloppy speed favoring track. Royal Charlotte should have won anyway, even against the flow of the track and the flow of the race. But Castellano, never being known for reading a bias, ducks to the rail in the stretch, and the horse just hits a complete wall, just completely stops. I think with a different ride, if she stays wide, she probably wins that race. I really think she moves forward here, second off the layoff, and I'm really interested to bet her in this spot here.
Yeah, so for me, this is all about Come Dancing. She's back into the Martin Carlos barn after the weird trip to Dwayne Lucas for some reason. I don't know what happened with the ownership, but there was some sort of somebody was not happy about something. JJ gets back up. JJ has this horse very well figured out. I expect, maybe not those monster figures of the, sort of spring of 2019, but she doesn't need to bring her best game here to win this. She's got some dirtied up form, so you might actually get paid a little if she does win. And the other horse that I like a little bit is I think it's Shalon, however you say it. I don't know. I've heard it pronounced a couple of different ways. I think she's been really, really good. JJ gets off, which I don't necessarily love, but she's the other one that kind of on figures makes sense in here. And besides that, I don't really want anybody else.
Yeah, I think I like Shalon. I'm with you. My thing with her is at some point you need to win a graded stakes. And it just seems like every single time, whether it's unlucky or just always has a knack of finding one better, she finds a way to lose, whether it's a grade 1 or a grade 3. And I know some people, probably wouldn't care about that too much, but when she's had as many chances as she's had and just finds ways to lose to horses like Separation of Powers, Minute to Stardom, like Dawn the Destroyer, like these aren't great horses. So I don't know if I love her here off the bench. She scratched out of a race, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago to race here. So maybe she's live. And if you can get a price, I don't hate it, but I don't think you would.
Yeah,
I don't like her at 7-5. She's the likeliest horse and the likeliest winner of the day or of the race if she runs her race. But her last 2 times have been nothing close to her race. I can excuse the Oaklawn effort as she inexplicably tried 2 turns and 8.5 furlongs for some reason. The Santa Anita race was terrible. Really no excuse that day. That's not 2 bad races for the 6-year-old mare. It looks like she's working really well in the morning, like 57-4 work 10 days ago. But I just don't know, like after 2 dud races, do I want 7-5 on this horse? And I'm not really sure that I do. I think you might get a little better than that. If you can get 2-1 or something like that, that might be a little more palatable. But like, I'm not going to probably let that horse beat me. I don't hate Come Dancing, but I do think 7-5 is kind of a rough price to take on a horse that has a little bit to prove.
In fairness to Shalom, Minute to Stardom is featured on a Star Guitar ad, and I've seen it on TVG multiple times. So did lose against TV Star. Now I'm telling you guys, I'm gonna bet Jakarta, especially if I get 20-1. I mean, I hate money, so I don't really see any other. I mean, what other speed is signed up here? Victim of Love, maybe.
If Jakarta hadn't had a habit of every time she gets versus real horses of just stopping, I'd probably be more into her. But what happened in that last race? She got the hustle bug of hustle bugs on a horse that looks like she needs to be sent, and then she just absolutely yeah, just stopped. And I honestly don't think that probably dirt is the best surface for this horse. What her best race is in the I don't know, mid 70s on dirt. So she needs to find 20 buyer points, which is at this distance, 20 lengths. I sure you can make the case that she's loose speed and whatever gets real brave on the front end, but I need a lot more than 20 to 1 to get there.
I didn't think she was gonna be 20 to 1. I thought she was gonna be a lot shorter. So that's that definitely makes me rethink the way I think I called this race on the podcast. Come Dancing obviously is the classiest horse here, but trying to get around Come Dancing is going to be I think a little tough for me unless I get creative with Jakarta. So I'll probably be on those two horses, and I'm on the Fade Mother train just like the rest of you guys are. So
Somehow Pacific Gale is going to clunk up for third. I'm just calling that now.
that horse fucking just loves getting third, huh?
It's not even that it loves getting third. It's just maybe I'm getting this horse and Dawn the Destroyer confused. But one of these horses always clunks up to like run in the second or third place of a race they shouldn't be involved in.
Oh yeah, the Distaff. What was it? Distaff H at Aqueduct, some grade 3 race. Looks like 26-1 came in third or second, and the same thing at another GP race. 44-1 got second.
Yeah, 44-1, 33-1, 26-1, and then last time out 22-1. This horse hits the board. So look, if you want something to round out your exotics, that's probably who I'd look at.
Yeah, just to answer Dennis's question in chat on Johnny Pump, the 5 in the 6th race, that's a horse that I think if Peter Brandt went back, he would say he paid way too much money for. There was a ton of hype around that horse going into the auction, and I think the 1.1 mil was he really overpaid. And you see that a lot on all these sort of flashy works with the pedigree and yada yada yada. I know they've had to start and stop a bunch of times on this horse, and this is the kind of horse that out of the Chad Brown barn, I want to fade first out. I would go someplace else in this race. I think this horse is going to take a ton of money off the Chad connection and the massive purchase price. I don't know what specific the issues were, but I know that they had to start and stop on this one a couple of times. And I know that it's one of those horses that was not very impressive while working at Saratoga a couple of times. I know some, big money horses there on the Chad barn. You hear about them. There's a lot of hype train. This horse has never had that hype train. So it's one I would not be super interested in.
In fairness, Chad Brown might be one of the few trainers who can get away with sitting on $1 million horse and telling the owner, I don't think she's ready yet. Or I don't think he's ready yet. I thought I know Chad does really well with fillies. I thought it was a she, but it looks like it's a colt. So, but Chad's probably the one guy who can kind of get away with that. So, just something to keep in mind, especially when it comes to turf. So,
yeah,
I'm guessing the horse is probably real short on the board.
7-1 on the morning line. I think you'll get maybe half that. I'm a Pharaoh. The 6 is much more interesting here. First time on turf with a ton of turf pedigree, both top and bottom. For the Pletcher barn with a rad up, to me, that's probably the horse that makes the most sense in here. There's some other first time starters I would get behind before I would get behind Johnny Pump.
Yeah, Patriot Game, the 10. I haven't handicapped this race. I haven't even looked at it, but that 14.89 DPI jumped off the page at me. So the 10 Patriot Game is a half sibling to Orb, actually. So a little interesting.
But the jock is horrendous.
He's the jock is a half sibling to a trash can.
I really don't think he's very useful. He just has a tough go of it when all the big name guys are in town.
had a tough go of it when if he hadn't screwed me a couple of times this meet, I would speak better of Dylan. I think somebody like North Carolina is super interesting in here as a first time starter out of the Shig Barn. I think that horse is a little bit more interesting here for me if you want a first time starter. So I would be probably actually.
Dennis says you're drunk. By the way, you said 7-2, not 7-1.
I said 7. Wait, what did I say?
Are you drunk?
Me? No.
Who's drunk? He said 7-2, not 7-1. Oh, is that horse really 7-1 on the morning line? He thinks we're gonna get 7-2. Maybe that's what he meant. Never mind.
I see. Johnny Pump is 7-2 on the morning line.
Oh, he's 7-2 on the morning line.
Yeah,
you said 7-1.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did.
And
you drunk ass.
Damn it. Maybe I did. Anyways, I think the horse is gonna be half of that just on the connections. So.
I was really excited. I was like, man, we're gonna get 7-2 if this gets cut in half. I don't fucking bet that.
No, it's 7-2, so you're gonna get that horse is gonna go off at 5-2 or that kind of range.
All right, well, that's all. I mean, we got through twice as much as we normally do in about the same amount of time it normally takes us to do like 5 races. So that was pretty good. Let me check for chat real quick, see if we got any other questions. It looks like, yep, everyone is confirming that Mark, in fact, did say 7-1, and he will be 7-3 per Evil Bob Dole. But I don't know. Any closing thoughts? What are you guys going to play this weekend? I know we talked through both cards, but what are you guys actually going to play? Are you guys going to focus on either track or? Caleb, I'll start with you.
So for me, last weekend was the first weekend in what feels like months that I've actually had a profitable weekend. So I'm going to play both. I think both cards are awesome. I play more Belmont. I'm more in tune with kind of the trends and the connections and the kind of what's going on at Belmont versus Churchill. But I really like the Churchill card. So I'm going to play both. I'll probably go a little bit lighter at Churchill just because I don't have the confidence. And I do think there's a very real chance that the late sequence gets a little bit chalky. But I'm still going to be involved. So I'm going to look at both sequences.
Yeah, just doing an initial pass. I'm going to probably sit around on that Churchill card, try to get Serengeti Empress over TDT. In that double, I'm hoping that double pays $10 or more, and if it does, I will probably fire a pretty large double, trying to get those two over the top of each other, and then probably look at this Belmont late sequence. Looks just really good. I think to me it's a little more playable. There's more players in here. I think I'll probably focus most of my attention horizontally towards Belmont and just target those 2 races at Churchill. That's kind of how I'm looking at it now. Let's see what scratches end up being, but I will be playing both of those 2. So
there's some real big news in the horse racing world today. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Perry Oots rode 7 races today and won 5 of them.
Oh, it must have been the coldest rail that ever existed.
Yep. He's 66 years old on July 7th.
Where at?
At Belterra. I think that's Evil Bob Dole's home track, right? I think that's that's his home track is Belterra. That's where he hangs out. Yeah, I think that's gonna do it for us. I'm mostly gonna be looking at probably Churchill, but I think it might be a 50-50 day. These are 2 of my higher handle tracks, so I'm not gonna look at anything. California, is Los Al running this weekend? Is that?
Yeah, Friday. I didn't look at it. I hate Los Al. I like California racing, sort of, but I can't do Los Al.
Important to know about Los Al is when they are not running quarter horses, they have fair takeout. So you have to look at the fair takeout rates. And by fair, I mean like the California fair is not like fair as in, hey, this takeout seems like it's not bad. The takeout is pretty outrageous. So just be careful when you bet. But yeah, I'll be just looking, I think, at Belmont and Churchill this weekend. So
someone said Churchill's closing Sunday. Is that right?
Yeah, Churchill Sunday is the.
Is there any carryovers or mandatories or anything?
have to pay out their picks. Everything will have to pay out on the mandate.
Okay, how much of the carryover running, I mean?
I don't know what it is. I can look. 1 second.
Well, either way, that might be something to look at for Sunday if it doesn't get taken down and if there's half decent carryover.
By the way, I did find, I don't know if I noticed, said this yet, but I did find the tweet from the chart caller, Carly. Says, are you responsible for a chart at Arlington a couple years ago where a horse called Bold Rally closed to win? And the footnote says, Bold Rally. So I like when they have funds like that. So
yeah, it looks like the Churchill carry from the picks is only 5,500 into tomorrow. So I mean, you have a couple days to build it, but it won't be big.
Oh well.
Well, yeah. So I think that's gonna do it for us. We're on the wrong lead. And then shout out to our boy Chase, who did show up in chat for a little bit. He will have his wolf sheet up at some point. But we will we'll be around Discord. I'll probably have a Churchill write up tomorrow sometime. And that'll be on our website at ontherwronglead.com. You can buy merch, including the fancy shirt that I'm wearing, which you probably can't see. It says, there's Mark's shirt. And then also on our YouTube link, you do have a link to AM Wager, which I know Mark just did a video on some of their features. And if you sign up through us, you get the normal sign-up bonus that everyone gets, and then helps us out a little bit, gets us a little bit money to help pay for our hosting costs and things like that. And then I'm still working on a write-up too, just to kind of let you guys know, be transparent about all the costs that we incur. It's not much, but there are some costs, and our goal is just to try and make a little bit back to cover those. So